The following is a Spirit Street production.
While there wasn't a ton of, close or classic games, as you would say in the Big 12, there was some good ones and there were some disappointments. Some teams took a step forward, teams took a step back. I told you these power rankings were going to go up and down. They were going to be ever changing, and Lord have mercy, have they moved again? This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, how is it going, my man?
Good. Let the chaos begin. We're one game into Big 12 play with UCF winning at Baylor. There's a Baylor? Nope, excuse me, TCU. And we've already got chaos. Yep. It's crazy. This is going to be fun because we're comparing you against the 24/7 Big 12 publishers, and there's much different views on this between you and them.
Absolutely. I love it. Look, the rankings, again, they moved again this week, just like we said they were going to each and every week. There is never going to be a time when these are going to be the same. Just nope. Absolutely not. And I like chaos. And that's exactly what we got so far. So let's get into these power rankings. So first things first, I'm sorry, Cincinnati, you're still at 16. You beat Miami of Ohio. It is what it is. I mean, if you would have beat Miami of Ohio like 50-13 or something like that, I might say, you know what, let's move them a little bit. But that's not what happened. It was a dogfight. And I know Cincinnati fans are going to say, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. And even if it is a rivalry game, it's still Miami of Ohio. You should be much better than them. But I still have you at 16, unfortunately, Fitz.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that you have them at 16.
I'm trying. I'm really trying to get them out of there, man. I'm trying to get them out of there. They're going to be mad, but it is what it is. It is what it is. At 15, I got Houston. Look, the reason that I don't – and I'll just explain it. The reason that Houston is not 16, because Houston's loss at Oklahoma is better than anything that Cincinnati has done. Let's just put it like that. It's better than anything that they have done. So that's why they are not last. So if you're wondering the reason, that's why I like what I saw. Not to mention they got to win this week against Rice. Now, I know it's only Rice, but you got to win some of these games that are on your schedule. Houston has done that. Williford, maybe they're going in the right direction here, Fitz. Maybe that's happening.
You know what's interesting is there's a stretch of games at season's end that I think we all assumed to be really easy for Kansas State. But what if Houston does start getting better? K-State goes down there, and then you've got Arizona State and Cincinnati in there. All of a sudden, Arizona State's incredible. This conference just – you can't know a thing until it actually happens. It's insane.
Well, Cincinnati. But sorry. I apologize. They got to get better. I think they will too. 14. Look, I don't think I've been on their bandwagon at the beginning of the season, and I don't think there's going to be any West Virginia fans that are going to be mad at me for having them at 14. They are furious right now. And you know what? They should be furious right now. That was a game that you talk about the blueprint on how to give away a football game. That is literally what they did. Up 10 with 4 minutes to go, and you lose? And it wasn't, okay, Pitt scores a touchdown, Fitz, and then West Virginia gets it back, turns it over, and they get a short field. No. They drive 79 yards. West Virginia gets the ball. They punt. And then they drive 77 yards to go win the game. All in less than 2 minutes on both of these drives. Just unbelievable. But I'm sorry, West Virginia fans. I was on the bandwagon. I'm off. I'm absolutely off. I can get back on. Now, it's going to take a lot for me to get back on. I explained this yesterday. I'm a big guy. So you got to slow that train way down, Fitz, for me to get back on. You got to slow it down for me to get back on. But I got to feel this West Virginia, this train is moving real fast. I don't think I'm going to be able to get back on this one, Fitz. This is bad.
They're heading south. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who's next, but I'm guessing it's Pitt. In the Big
No, they
12
played
rankings.
Pitt.
What's that?
They just played Pitt.
I know. That's what I mean. Pitt's now
Oh.
beating Cincinnati and West
Yeah,
Virginia. I'm guessing Pitt's up next.
Jiminy Christmas. It's just, brutal. Just brutal. Brutal game. I can't believe they lost it, too. I was going to be so happy. I'm like, you know what? They fought back, and I'm like, hold on, guys. Wait a minute. What are you doing? What are you doing? It literally was like watching a train wreck, and you couldn't turn away. Bad. At number 13, look, I'm sorry, Kansas. I don't want to hear anything from anybody about it. This is where you belong right now. This is another team. I was on that bandwagon talking about how good they were, talking about all the things that they have coming back. Now, I do understand that both West Virginia and Kansas could still very well win the conference and be in the Big 12 championship game. None of that is up in smoke at this point in time. We haven't started conference play. But if you're trying to tell me that the way that they look, that's a possibility, I don't buy that right now. Oh, by the way, they play each other this weekend. I'm guessing the loser of this doesn't even make a bowl game because I think their season might just hit south. But KU's at 13 right now.
I can't explain it, man. I can't explain how this team with that much talent, a quarterback that should be really good and hasn't been, has turned south this quickly. It's incredible. And it sure wiped out a lot of preseason commentary, including mine, that KU could contend if Jalen Daniels is healthy. Well, he appears to be healthy and a problem because he's not been good. The offensive play calling has not been good, and the defense hasn't been good enough to make up the difference for the offensive deficiencies.
Right.
This is unbelievable. This thing is, again, this is heading south. They're lucky they get West Virginia. I think they win that game, but I wouldn't touch it if I was a betting man. I wouldn't even come close to touching that game.
Yeah. You know what? I think part of Kansas's problem, look, we can blame it all on Jalen Daniels if you want to. Okay, he's struggling, and there's no doubt about that. But you know what's not struggling, Fitz, on the offensive side is running the football. They are not struggling to run the football. And I've said it 3 times, and I'm going to say it again today. Devin Neal had 20 carries against UNLV, should have been 35. Mm-hmm. You're running the ball successfully. Just keep running it. You know you've got a struggling quarterback. That comes back to the offensive coordinator. What are you doing? Are you watching the game? Because if you're not watching the game, then hand over the play calling duties to somebody else. I'll be honest. Look, I know I went to Kansas State, but I'm pretty partial when we do this show. I feel bad for Kansas fans because I think this was going to be a really good season for them, and it's going down the drain because maybe the wrong offensive coordinator was hired. Yep. I'm just saying.
I think they know that.
It's starting to look that way, man. At number 12, I got Colorado. I'm not that impressed by the win. You were supposed to beat Colorado State. Colorado State will be lucky to win 4 games this year and then keep their coach. They're not a very good football team at all. Look, I will give Colorado credit for this. They did run the football, Fitz. They attempt. I mean, before they weren't even attempting to run it, but at least they attempted to run it and ran it with a little bit of success. Okay. And their defense, while Colorado State, we don't think they're any good. I mean, we know they're not any good. They did hold them to 9 points. I mean, they did a good job. And if you count the Nebraska game in the second half, you know, they've done a fairly good job, you know, over the last 6 quarters of football. So I'll give them credit for that, you know, because if you want to bash them, there's plenty of things to bash them about. We got to talk about some of the good stuff. At least they won the game. And the game wasn't really even that close, to be honest with you. It wasn't. But it wasn't supposed to be, Fitz. They're much better than Colorado State.
They're much better. They got a long ways to go to compete in the Big 12. Again, I bought into some of the rhetoric out of Boulder, not all of it, but this is worse than I thought it would be by far. Colorado State stinks. That's a bad. I don't think they'll win 4. I think that's a team that, you know, Jay Norville's just driven that off the cliff. With he's just lost his mind in some of the stuff he's getting distracted by. Mm-hmm. That imaginary goblins out there chewing away at his program when he's the biggest threat. So it's It's unfortunate. I like Colorado State as a university. I love Fort Collins, but this is a stinky product, and you had a chance. You had Colorado on your home field, and you just didn't have the coach or team to do it.
No, you don't. And it is what it is. Like I said, I like Colorado played better, but they were supposed to play better against this team. Interesting matchup coming up this week with Baylor. Really interesting. I'll be interested to tune into that game to see what comes out of it. So last one before we take our first break, Texas Tech at 11. I think this is a perfect spot for Texas Tech right now. Fitz, they finally realized the season started. It's amazing what happens when you actually go and you try to compete in a football game. You know, now granted, North Texas not very good. I understand. But at the same time, they compete. This is what should have happened the first week of the season. I don't know if we could have predicted that they'd score 21 points in a minute. I mean, that, is a little different, but they did. But either way, maybe they've woken up. Maybe last week was what they needed for us to literally get the doors blown off of us and embarrassed by Washington State. Washington State's a pretty good team, by the way. They beat Washington on the road this week. Not that I think Washington's great, but still, I think Washington State, number one, got a chip on their shoulder, pretty good team. But hopefully Texas Tech has woken up and said, you know what? Okay, it's time to compete, Fitz. Time to compete.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's take a look at our rankings so far. This is what we got. Cincinnati, Houston, West Virginia, Kansas, Colorado, and Tech.
You got two the same as the pubs.
Yeah, two of them are the same. Not a lot. Colorado at 12, West Virginia at 14. Interesting. I don't know.
What I see here is at least the bottom six are the same. The order's different, but they're all there. For both of those lists. I'd probably agree with Houston below Cincinnati, but I think that's pretty damn close. And I can't put Kansas up there at 11. I just can't.
No way. No way. No how.
Maybe I did on my ballot. I can't remember. I always do them so quickly. But as I've absorbed the week, Kansas is in trouble, man. They really are. They got to shake this off.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. And once we come right back, we will unveil the next half of the Big 12 power rankings from the Big 12 insiders. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. Today, we are giving you our power rankings for the week for the Big 12. We've done the first 6. Let's go with the next 6 here. At number 10, TCU. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that think this one's a little bit lower. But I got TCU here. Look, they played a great game. This is the best game of the weekend in the Big 12. Exciting football game. So a lot of people, look, TCU gave the game away. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They gave the game away. I understand UCF is a good football team, as you'll see in the rankings, but TCU gave this one away, and I don't know. Maybe I'm punishing them for it because I thought TCU should have won the game, but I got them at 10.
Yeah, you probably got them lower than I would, but when you blow a lead like that on your home field to a team that you were expected to beat, even though UCF is pretty good, it doesn't bode well. I mean, that's your home field and you're collapsing. So I think people in Fort Worth are probably worried, maybe not as worried as the folks in Lawrence, but they're a little bit concerned about where this program's headed this season.
Right. And maybe it's also a little projection because the one thing I know about TCU when watching this football game, they cannot stop anybody from running the football, or at least they couldn't stop UCF from running the football. I mean, they were doing wind sprints up and down the field. So I don't know. At number 9, I got Baylor. Yeah. Baylor. I'm not sure what we know about Baylor yet, Fitz.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. Quarterback got hurt, didn't play this past week. Backup did play well. Now, they weren't playing anybody great, so we'll see. Again, very intriguing game coming up. I think this is where the power rankings next week might take a little turn here, depending on who wins the game between Baylor and Colorado. I think they're probably fairly evenly matched. I think Baylor is better coached. I'll say that, but we'll see. We'll see. But I got them Baylor at 9 right now.
Never in the history of the earth have bears and bison been so not scary, so unthreatening. Just sad.
Yeah. Both of these teams, look, they got opportunities. Don't get me wrong, and we're still early in the season, but they both got to get better. Both of their losses, you could say. I mean, Baylor at least fought in the second half. And I guess Colorado technically did against Nebraska, but they got smacked around in those first halves. So we'll see what's happening here. At number 8, I got Arizona. And maybe people think that's a bigger drop than what they should have had, or maybe not enough. What I saw, Fitz, is a team that didn't understand the type of physicality that they were going to run into and got physically manhandled against Kansas State on the road. After the first drive, they literally didn't do anything. They couldn't run the ball anymore. We saw it the first drive, and literally that was it. So I think 8 right now. And look, we've seen their defense in all 3 of the games. It hasn't really looked that impressive, and it didn't look impressive against Kansas State either. So 8, I think, is a good spot for them.
I agree. I mean, look, a few things go differently in that game. Maybe the game's complexion is completely different. What if Dylan Edwards doesn't come up to field that bouncing punt return and it just rolls down there like he did earlier in the season? Well, that's a big change. And what if Noah Fafita cuts the ball loose a few seconds earlier and there's not an interception on their third drive? I mean, their second drive, they give a punt return. Their third drive, they give up an interception as they're going in. They're playing okay. And then all of a sudden they're just digging a hole. And they didn't respond to it either. Mostly the coaches. They didn't do anything to really pressure Kansas State, either offensively or defensively, as that game wore on.
Yeah, K-State got exactly what they wanted on through the air and on the ground, and then they stopped Arizona from being able to run the ball, and there were no adjustments because it was a close game at halftime. And then, like you mentioned, K-State just decided, okay, we're going to put our foot down. Are you going to respond? And Arizona did not. So they're at 8 this week. At number 7, BYU, cracking the top 7. Look, 3-0. Competition maybe not as tough as what people think. I think people thought at the beginning of the season this trip to Laramie was going to be, significant, but Wyoming's not any good.
No,
they're not a good football team. But that doesn't mean that BYU shouldn't have went in there and smacked them around, and that's exactly what they did. When you're facing a team that you're physically better than, your job is to smack them around. They did. Big test coming up this week, but I like BYU at 7.
They've accomplished exactly what they needed to accomplish in the non-conference. Built confidence, grabbed some wins, feel like they have a better definition of who they are and what their 2024 style is going to be about because they're leaned into being more physical. They're a better team than we thought they would be, but they're going to start finding out exactly how good they are now that Big 12 play opens.
Yes, they will. I mean, like I said, first game right out of the chute against Kansas State. The game's at home, but Kansas State is a really good football team, as we'll see here. But congrats to BYU on what they've done so far. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in Big 12 play. Next up, Arizona State at number 6, Fitz. Again, outside of Arizona State fans and maybe a handful of people around the country, nobody saw them being 3-0 at this point in the season. But you've said it before. I'll say it again. Our man, Chris Cartman, that covers Arizona State for 24/7 Sports, he came on here with you and said there was something different about this team. He was right so far. There has been something different. They're playing good football. That win at Texas State is a much better win than the average college football fan realizes.
Yep.
Texas State is a good football team. It was a hostile environment. I like hostile. And it was a hostile environment. They went on the road a short week too. They played late on the previous Saturday, beat Mississippi State. Emotional game because even though Mississippi State's not any good, as we saw them get their head beaten in the very next week, but emotional win against an SEC opponent. You have to go on a road and win. They did. I like it. I like what they're doing.
I agree. This is a good football team. And Cartman called it. And now we're going to find out as they sort out exactly how good they are moving into Big 12 play. But they're going to win some games. They just need 3 to get bowl eligible, which would be a significant step for the program. So the Sun Devils are going to be a fun team to watch going forward.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what they do in Big 12 play. Get started this week. And then last one before our last break, UCF at number 5. Look, they came back. They played an incredible second half, basically last quarter and a half of this football game. They were down 28-7. I thought it was blowout city on the way. And you know how they came back, Fitz? That initial drive being down 28-7, you would think that, oh, they're just going to throw the ball all over the lot. They didn't do that. Literally, that they had a big drive right after that, and they ran it every play but one to go score. And that's a coach that says, you know what, we're going to stick to the game plan. We've made some changes on defense. If we can just get the stops, our offense is going to work. And that's exactly what happened. They got the stops they needed on defense, and they kept running the football. TCU had no answer for what they were trying to do. And then all of a sudden UCF decide, oh, you're going to come up to stop the run. We're just going to throw it over your head. They did. A big win on the road for UCF. Huge for their confidence, too.
It was impressive. We knew their running game was going to be pretty good, but they used it to great effect in this game. And I love a coach who's patient enough, who has that internal calculation that can say, okay, we've got enough time. We can keep running the ball and do our thing. We don't have to panic yet. Let's not panic. If we don't get a stop here and there, we're going to panic and start throwing it. But our heart and soul is running the ball, and we're going to continue to run the ball and set a physical tone that can't be matched. And credit to Gus Malzahn and his coaching staff. They knew their team, and their team won.
Absolutely. It's just what you said, Fitz. When a coach understands what his team is and then just plays to that strength, sometimes it works out the way that you want to, even when they didn't play good. Because the first 2.5 quarters or 2 quarters, and let's call it 2.5 quarters, they weren't playing great, but they just kept after it and kept after it. And sometimes that's what you got to do to win. You just got to keep playing. And that's what UCF did. So let's unveil the next set here real quick. Only one the same as the publishers on this side, Fitz.
Yeah, let the chaos continue here when we get to the top 4. Look, if you look at that list, you can move them around a lot. I mean, everyone out there might have a different alignment of those next 6 schools, the 5 through 10 block. It's crazy, man. This is Big 12. It's just going to continue to be this way because once teams understand you got to play physical in this conference and you start doing that, it just makes every game so competitive.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I heard Reese Davis say this about the Big 12 is that, I don't know that I necessarily agree, but it does make sense, where he said that the Big 12 is not the deepest conference in the country, but it's the widest conference in the country. I understand what he's saying. Again, I would argue that maybe it is the deepest, but right. I do understand what he's talking about, the widest, because it is wide open as far as the number of teams that are going to be competitive in this conference. I love it that it's that way. I hope that we have a couple of teams rise to the top of this thing so that we get at least 2, maybe even 3 teams into the college football playoff, because that'll be the first thing that they try to hunt us down on, Fitz, to say, well, you lost all these games. You must not be that any good. Well, if everybody's good, you can't win every single game. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not the way that it works, but oh, well, we'll get by it. We'll get through it. We'll take one last quick break before we unveil the final 4 here. Again, we're counting down or giving you the breakdown of the power rankings of Big 12 Insiders power rankings. We will be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Big B, Brien Hanley with Tim Fitzgerald. Final 4. Okay, Fitz. So I had a little shakeup this week.
You did.
People are going to be upset. I don't care. This is the way I see it. Utah, number 4. Now, you could say, what are you talking about, B? How could they go from 1 to 4? What did they do? Well, I saw them play I saw them without their quarterback. Is there anybody out there that thinks that Utah is the same team if Cam Rising doesn't play? And the answer to that is no. I can tell you right now. And the better answer to this is if Cam Rising is not playing, are they better than Iowa State or Oklahoma State or Kansas State? My answer is no. So that's the last thing that I saw from Utah. Now, if he plays this weekend and they play better, they can get right back up to where they were. As a matter of fact, I could just tell you, they go to Oklahoma State and win, they'll be right back at the top. But from what I just saw, they're not the best team, Fitz. They're not with this collection of players that played on Saturday. That's not the best team in this conference.
The Big 12 didn't mess around with the scheduling now. I mean, you've got Utah, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State goes to Kansas State next weekend, and Utah's got Arizona coming up. I mean, they front loaded some of these games. It almost feels like it was intentional to get viewers involved, get the non-Big 12 fans that might catch a game or two, get them kind of hooked on the brand. But it's going to sort out a lot pretty quickly. Before we're even out of September, we're going to know a lot about this race.
I love it that they did that. Don't wait till the end or the middle of November or something like that. Let's get some of these good games right away. And not to mention, look, and that's discounting other games. I mean, we just had a good game, the first conference game of the year, first real conference game of the year, TCU and UCF. I don't see how it gets a whole lot better than that. So, if you watch football, if you're a football fan, that's why everybody should be so excited to watch the Big 12 this season. Coming in at number 3, I got Iowa State. Look, they were off. They didn't do anything. But just like I mentioned, I just don't believe that Utah without Cam Rising, and it's not just the offense, the entire team is just not better because they respond to Cam Rising.
They do.
That whole squad responds to him, which is a testament to him. But without him, and we didn't see it, he didn't play this week, they're not better than Iowa State, and that's why I have Iowa State at number 3.
Yep, Iowa State's good. Legit.
Yeah.
We talked about it before the season started. We thought they would be. That win at Iowa probably boosted their confidence to match their talent. They're going to be a problem throughout this schedule. I mentioned the front loading of the schedule, but they close with a pretty big game in Ames when it might be snowing again when K-State and Iowa State play. There's so many fun games on the schedule. That's why I love this conference.
Correct. I love the conference. Iowa State's a really good football team. They're only getting better because they're just starting. At number 2, I got Oklahoma State. The one thing is I love that they played the game at Tulsa. They didn't have to go to Tulsa, but Tulsa is good football recruiting grounds. It's not that far from Stillwater. I love that they went there and played. Obviously, Tulsa's not great. The only thing about Oklahoma State that I'm still trying to figure out, they cannot get Ollie Gordon going. They just can't get him going. And I think teams are just saying, you know what? I'm not going to allow him to beat us. Make Alan Bowman beat us. Well, Alan Bowman has taken that challenge and said, I absolutely will beat you. If that's what you want to do, you want to commit so many people to the box, I'm just going to throw the ball over your head and throw it all over the yard, and we're going to beat you that way. And they've been doing it.
Yep. You take away any team's running game, it changes them. You take away Ollie Gordon and Oklahoma State's running game, it vastly alters them. But I think they'll figure it out and get cooking. But man alive, I mean, this is significant. I'm so fired up to watch that Utah Oklahoma State game. We discussed this. It's right when I'll be in Provo covering that game. It's right when I need to take a nap for a 9:30 Central kickoff that I'm covering. I need my naps.
Yeah.
The Big 12 needs to build in nap time for all of us. I think we'd all benefit from it. Here's 30 minutes where we got no football. Lay down.
I would love it. I'll be definitely taking a nap. Not during this game, no. It's a huge game. Huge implications with Utah and Oklahoma State. But as far as Ollie Gordon, one thing that I will say about Oklahoma State is maybe we just haven't seen them. Maybe the stuff, I haven't studied them that closely yet. But maybe some of the stuff that they're running is just pretty basic, and they're not going to bring out anything until they need to bring it out because the opponent, even Arkansas, Arkansas is not that good. I think Oklahoma State just overestimated who they were, underestimated, I should say, who they were and all of that. But I don't think they brought out a whole bunch of stuff yet, maybe. And I'm thinking we will probably see some of this high-level run package stuff against Utah.
I agree.
And then the top team in the conference that I have this week is Kansas State. Call me a homer if you want to. That's fine. But it was the biggest win of the week. Arizona going into the game. Now, people can say now, well, Arizona's not that good. Oh, they weren't very physical. We knew that. Nobody was saying that going into the game. Not a soul. Half the people thought that Arizona, this was going to be a tight game, and Arizona might even win. Well, they got smacked around. And outside of Iowa State going to Iowa and winning, K-State has the best win in the conference. So, in my opinion, because Arizona's still a good football team. So, like I mentioned, they whipped them. They weren't supposed to whip them. It just shows how good of a team Kansas State is. I suspected that's what would happen after coming off the poor performance against Tulane. They came out, whipped Arizona. I could just have them as the number one team this week.
You know, my top three didn't change. I agree that Kansas State had the best win, but I still got Utah and Oklahoma State in 1 and 2, simply because I don't feel like they've fallen out of that. And also knowing that they're playing this weekend, we'll sort something out and we'll get a better view of them. Maybe they both drop below Kansas State this next week in my personal power rankings, but for now they're up there. I just need more information. I think they're all three very good teams. I think Iowa State's a very good team. And I think we're already beginning to see defining wins that show who's going to be where in the pecking order.
Right. And for me, and again, people are going to ask and say, well, you're doing this, you're a homer, yeah. That's okay. But I do it week by week and what I see. I love the fact that you said that they hadn't fallen out. I don't think Utah or Oklahoma State has fallen at all. I just think Kansas State has just risen above them. Okay. A better win against better competition. That can happen. You shouldn't be penalized. And I'm not saying you or anybody else is penalizing, but you can't penalize me if I play good competition and beat them. At some point, you have to reward that.
Yep.
And other teams, you have your opportunities. Kansas State took theirs. So this is what I got for this week with the power rankings. The publishers still got Utah. They got Kansas State 2, Oklahoma State 3, and they got UCF at 4. That's surprising. They put UCF above Iowa State, but that was a good win on the road.
It was. Not better than I don't believe than Iowa State winning at Iowa.
No.
But yeah, I think you can do with those two whatever. I am a little surprised, but look, I think the top 6, everyone's going to kind of agree on that, at least right now. And Arizona State, welcome to the club. Welcome to the upper strata of this conference. But yeah, let's get going, man. Let's start sorting this thing out, knock the snot out of each other and see where it lands.
Yes, absolutely. So good week of football coming up. Good week last week, but conference play starts. And that's what we like to see. There's still 2 teams, I think 2 teams that still have non-conference. I know Iowa State doesn't, and TCU plays SMU. But for the most part, it's conference play moving forward, people. So I can't wait for this weekend. Again, really good football games coming up this weekend. We all need to be, pay attention to. It'll sort itself out. You don't like the rankings this week, let me know about it. And I promise you they will be different next week. So appreciate everybody joining us again on Big 12 Insiders. As always, remember to like, follow, subscribe, leave those comments, and hit the notification bell so you know when all Big 12 Insiders content comes out. Until then, we will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.